In professional basketball, to be considered well on your way to legendary status, there are a few metrics you have to reach as a generational player. All of our favorites had to go through this, and it typically involves reaching certain individual and team milestones that puts a claim to the player's name. One of the more important ones you could say would be the MVP award, Most Valuable Player. This is the award that lets everyone know who the top dog is. Awards like this could be highly political, as just having the metrics on your side may not work. It's all about being loud. Everyone has to know to follow your journey into becoming the MVP. So there has to be a certain level of visibility on his journey to becoming the greatest of all time. Michael Jordan had to climb that ladder of being respected enough to earn his first MVP honors, and took him a decent amount of time. I say that because as a rookie, he was already considered the best individual player in the sport, but he wasn't given the MVP right away. Instead, he had to crank his scoring output up to the tune of about 35 to 37 points per game, obliterating the competition to even start being noticed for the award. He didn't win it that first season for doing this, but this season set the tone for the following seasons. Are we getting ready to see this phenomenon start up again in the WNBA? Unless you've been living under a rock, you've likely seen this young woman everywhere in the past few years.
Caitlin Clark.
And for good reason, as she has absolutely captivated the nation with her inspiring play that has made her a fan favorite amongst, well, the entirety of America, basically. From the moment I first got wind of her as a sophomore, where she would go viral for absolutely torching Michigan with insane logo bombs in a heroic effort to try bringing her team back from a deficit before ultimately losing the game, to sealing her first trip to the national championship game by dropping back-to-back 40 balls against Louisville and the juggernaut that was South Carolina. The thing that we learned about Caitlin Clark in that short period of time was that she could absolutely fill it up. In fact, she could fill it up so well that in the following year, she would put up nearly 32 points a game on her way to breaking not only the NCAA women's scoring record held by Kelsey Plum, but then she would go on to break the non-NCAA women's scoring record held by Lynette Woodard, and then the NCAA scoring record regardless of gender held by Pistol Pete Maravich, bringing her career total to 3,951 points. This was unprecedented territory for anyone, although the young lady in Southern California may have something to say about this very soon. Shout out to Juju Watkins. But this was a tough feat, and with all of these moments and build-ups to moments that fans got to follow along with, whether it was tournament runs or scoring record chases, these moments ultimately made Caitlin Clark the household name she is today. At a point, she became such a great scorer that people kind of diminished or disregarded the rest of her game, kind of just alluding to narratives that, oh, all she do is score, all she do is shoot, etc., etc. But if you take a closer look, she also racked up a ton of dimes to the point where, although she may not have been the record holder of all-time assists in college, she most certainly is on that list. And this was part of her game that has been disregarded in an attempt to try to diminish what she had done. So fast forward to after her college season, and we all know the talk by now about how Caitlin Clark's game wouldn't translate to the WNBA because she was too slow, too weak, too one-dimensional and whatnot. Well, it's safe to say that was surely proven wrong, and a lot of people who position themselves as hoop experts had to eat crow, but there was an adjustment period for her, and that adjustment period had her averaging like 16, 5, and 6, which in the WNBA are still all WNBA numbers historically speaking. So during this adjustment period, the memo was obviously to throw everything teams had at her, and this is where we saw the full court pressing, face guarding, and blitzes on ball screens. I bring this up to say, with so much attention applied to her, she still made all WNBA team averaging around 19 points and 8 assists to finish the season. Instead of breaking a lot of scoring records, this time the focus was on her passing abilities, where she would go on to break numerous assist records, whether it was in a game or having the most per game. But with that season concluded, could we be in for Caitlin Clark returning to her scoring habits? To win an MVP, whether it is in the NBA or WNBA, players usually have to stand out from the pack, and what has usually been the precursor to a player winning an award like MVP is that player having a standout season either the year before or the current year, like averaging a triple-double, leading the league in assists in a 9-point guard role, or leading the league in scoring. To get that campaign going, Caitlin is going to have to cross that threshold to get close to swaying the voters to give her that nod. As a rookie, she finished as the 7th leading scorer in the entire league, and she was only like 3 points away from being in second place. But there was, and still is, one obstacle standing in her way. In 2024, no other player seen as much individual success as A'ja Wilson. Taking home the scoring record, the MVP, and the Olympic MVP, and obviously the gold medal that accompanied that honor. This past year, she became the first player to score 1,000 points in a single season, on her way to scoring 26.9 points per game, which puts her at the highest per game scoring mark in WNBA history. Caitlin Clark was only about 7 points away from this, give or take, as a rookie. The interesting part about what A'ja did, or even what Jewell Loyd did in 2023, where she has the 3rd highest per game scoring mark in WNBA history, is that both happened when their teams kind of took a dip in production, which puts the onus on these players to ramp up their own individual production in order to make up for this. With the Aces, Chelsea Gray had been out for most of the season, and Jackie Young and Kelsey Plum had regressed from the production they had in 2023. For Jewell Loyd and the Seattle Storm, they lost a big chunk of their scoring production with the loss of Breanna Stewart, taking her talents back home to New York. I bring this up because with the additions of Natasha Howard and Sophie Cunningham, to name a few of the Fever's free agent additions, we don't know exactly how the role is going to shake out. Obviously, Kelsey Mitchell has come back. So even with all of these talents that the Indiana Fever are acquiring, obviously, like I said, retaining Kelsey Mitchell, I still believe her scoring will go up. I would aim around the 24 to 25 points a game mark. Either way, Caitlin is going to have to be able to show out against the best teams like the Mercury, the Liberty, the Lynx, and A'ja Wilson's Las Vegas Aces. The matchups between Caitlin Clark and A'ja Wilson haven't necessarily gone Caitlin Clark's way. The Las Vegas Aces were the only team that the Indiana Fever weren't able to beat, losing all 4 matchups no matter the location. In their previous matchups, A'ja just looked unstoppable, as she always does. And also, the Fever were bad at defense at the position that A'ja plays, so there wasn't much they could do to contain her. And then on the other end, you had Jackie Young just full court pressing and face guarding Caitlin the whole way. So it was up to her to figure that out, and it led to them having the successful strategy to both neutralize Caitlin Clark and sweep the season series. For Caitlin to be able to win the scoring title or even win MVP, it is matchups like these that Caitlin will have to look like the best player in. Obviously, Caitlin and A'ja don't match up directly in front of one another, but when these showdowns occur, it is important for a player like Caitlin, whom is trying to build her name up in this league, to show out in these matchups to kind of be able to sway the opinions of voters in a matchup that everyone is sure to be tuned into. A lot of people were campaigning last season for A'ja Wilson to win the MVP, even like a few weeks into the WNBA season. I remember back when Russell Westbrook was having his breakout season, the narrative was around his triple doubles and doing it without Kevin Durant. Caitlin has to capture the dialogue in this same exact fashion, and winning the scoring championship is one of the ways she would be able to get that leverage. Against the best teams, Caitlin struggled a lot and had some of the decent games sprinkled in, and on bad teams, she absolutely torched teams like the Wings and the Sky and the Mystics. In this upcoming season, Caitlin is going to have to take that next step and be able to put up big games against the best teams, especially the best defensive teams, because those are the main ones putting a muzzle on her in these games. This upcoming season, that is going to be one of the main things I am watching for, along with can she put together a string of scoring streaks where she goes a record number of games scoring more than 20 or 25 or something to that effect. She proves she can do this, and not only will it help her team, but it will absolutely put the league on notice. For Caitlin Clark, I fully expect her to be one of, if not the best offensive players in WNBA history. Scoring and playmaking would just be too elite for her not to. Free agency for the Indiana Fever has been interesting, and year in and year out, just in terms of how they will try to build teams around the dynamic of Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston for years to come, it will be certainly something to keep an eye on. With players like Satu Sabally and Alyssa Thomas going to the Mercury, or Brittany Griner going to the Dream, obviously we've seen the exchange between Kelsey Plum and Jewell Loyd. There's a lot on the horizon in the WNBA, not just this year, but especially next year with the CBA coming up. The Fever will have some key opportunities to really enhance the talent around their trio. Like I said, the offense will be there, but this team has to figure out how to stop being amongst the bottom of the rankings for defense, year in and year out. Coach Stephanie White was brought in to address some of that, but she can't do anything without the right personnel. And having defensive versatility and point of attack defenders with positional size should be what this team is prioritizing. Whether they add even more scoring around Caitlin and Aaliyah and Kelsey Mitchell or not, one thing that I believe is for certain is that Caitlin Clark will hit the ground running and gunning, and that may just be enough for her to reach the destination she wants to go.